welcome to the Proptech Hot Seat on iPropertyRadio with myself, Carol Tallon, the show where we explore trends and technologies driving innovation across the built environment. The show is brought to you in partnership with Proptech Ireland, the hub for innovators, investors, and indeed for industry leaders. I'm delighted to be joined today by Duragesh Mishra, founder of MangalMoorti Proptech India, or MPI. Duragesh, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Thank you so much, Carol, right, to give me this opportunity, right? I'm excited to discuss this, the most intense market, right, in the Asia right now, that's real estate, Indian real estate.
Well, I'm really excited to hear that. To be honest, it's a pretty intense marketplace in Ireland and across Europe at the moment, but that intensity is not so positive at the moment for real estate. So actually, in a way, it's very positive for PropTech because it's seen as a real potential solution to some of our challenges. And over the last number of years in PropTech Ireland, we've been trying to build closer relationships between PropTechs in India and in Ireland, because we know that Ireland is such a potential good foothold into the single market and into the EU. And the scale of innovation that's coming out of India at the moment is just so exciting. So you're based in Mumbai. You might just, before we get on to the technology, you might just give us a little bit of a glimpse as to what's happening in the real estate market in Mumbai.
Yeah, sure. So as you mentioned, definitely Europe and Ireland has the potential, right? And if amazing potential, right? But post-COVID, there are some elements that are working over there. The cost construction, the market slowdown, facing the bit, the challenge for people right now, and kind of a bit challenging for the foreign investors and people to move over there. And but definitely, putting the technology in this industry, right, will definitely help, and connecting with the industries who are getting the boom currently, right? As Middle East is the market, Indian real estate is the market, right? These markets are driven by the growth, actually the growth, right? Not by the sentiments. Definitely there are sentiments, right? They're working behind it, but majorly there are growth, and the market, India market, supporting the buyers to put their money into the properties. So when you talk about the Mumbai, basically India has three segments, right? As I was discussing with you, right? So we cannot generalize the Indian real estate in a common group or in a common sentence, right? So basically we come with a group of three Indias, basically India 1, India 2, and India 3. So when I talk about India 1, India 1 is a segment, right? They do not bother about the price, they do not bother about the affordability. These people are more focused about the quality and service over the price of that particular property, or maybe any investment, right? So India 1 is a market which is growing year on year, right? And the second, the major market, we can call it the more than 50%, right, of the load bearer are the India 2. People who are coming from the tier 2 cities, basically the non-metropolitan cities, right? These are the aspirational people, right? They basically try to buy their first home, to make sure their generational, wealth is getting built, right? They want their kids to be in the secure and independent houses, right? That's why they are trying their best and hard to get the first home of the generation, the second home for their next generation. And then there is a segment of India 3, right, which is basically the affordable housing. So one major key points in India to drive this market is government policies, right? There are two to three, policies which are working in the favor of India 3. The first is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, basically, affordable housing scheme by the Prime Minister of India, right? Which is giving support for the financial, loan, or maybe the debt, whatever they, prefer to buy home with, right? So these are the segments who are getting the growth, right, comparatively with the previous financial years, right? But when I talk about the Indian and Mumbai real estate market, see, Mumbai real estate has been the key driver for Indian real estate, and as well as Saudi Arabia, surprisingly, right? Major of the investors from Indian market, right, investing in Saudi Arabia are coming from only two regions of India. First is the Mumbai, and second is Delhi, the capital of India. Right. So there are various, points, there were various technology and various new ways of catering the clients, and making the buyers comfortable to put their money into it. Right. We'll be discussing further in this particular discussion.
Yeah, but that's really interesting for me to get context on the marketplace. I'm surprised to hear you say that Mumbai has been the driver for real estate across India. I would have assumed it was Delhi as the capital. Um, so what's the reason behind that?
So, as I mentioned, there are two segments, right? When we talk about Mumbai, the first is the premium buyers,
Mm.
right? The premium property buyers, luxury purchase, and second is the affordable housing. I'll just share a one stats with you. We have just completed the first half of 2024, right? The H1 of 2024. Mumbai has sold nearly 48,000 units, right, in the first half of 2024, which is absolutely 11% higher, right, in the last 11 years. So we are right now the 11-year high in the market, right? And in last 11 years, right, Mumbai has seen the change of government, Mumbai has seen the change of power, Mumbai has seen the COVID market and everything that's all can possible, right? So we are touching the 11-year high right now in Mumbai. And when we talk about India, it is 13-year high market, right? So Mumbai having two sentiments. First is the luxury housing and second is the affordable housing. Okay. So when I talk about the luxury housing, when I'm talking about the luxury housing, just to make our listeners and making comfortable what exactly the luxury purchase is. So basically it somewhere goes around 118,000 US dollar, right? Any property, costing more than 118,000 US dollar, right? Coming under the luxury segment, which is basically the $10 million, which is basically the 10 million INR, right? So the buyers for this particular segment has been increased 116% from last financial year, which is surprising, right? And when I talk about the overall purchase of properties in Mumbai, right, these luxury and premium buyers having the 41% of the overall purchase.
Wow.
Right. So this particular transition is coming from the affordable housing to the premium segment luxury purchase, right? And the key driver behind these purchase are three drivers. First is definitely the government policies making the foreign investment easy in India, right?
Mhm.
Second, affordable and disposable investment, right? People are having the market security in India, right? And they're free to dispose their money in real estate investments, right? And third is developer are more keen to build the luxurious property rather than the affordable one, right, or mid segment one. So these three key features are putting Mumbai and India to thrive into the luxury segment purchase more than the affordable and the mid segment purchase, right? And collectively with the introduction of the technology, right, and making the things easy for the people, they are sitting their places, they are sitting in their couch on the weekends and they can easily explore the properties. They have various ways of getting to know the best particular option, right? So one surprising factor in India and especially in Mumbai has been Mumbai has raised 5% sales comparatively with last financial year, right? So the sales figure got raised by 5%. And Carol, the best part has decreased the launching rate, fresh property launching, right, by
Yeah.
22%. So there was a dip of fresh launch by 22%, right, in this year, and the sales growth was 5% higher.
Still that. And
Yeah.
I suppose I want to offer some context there and say comparative to the Irish market. So what you're talking about, delivery of new units in Mumbai alone would be 50% higher than we're on target to deliver for all of the Republic of Ireland in 2024. So
Yeah.
it's just, I think it's really important to get a concept of scale. And I suppose the other thing, when you talk about the three drivers, I think it's interesting that you position developers being keen to enter the luxury market as a driver, because we would only ever see that as a response to market forces. So, as in when the buying capacity of people to enter the luxury market would then essentially drive developers to deliver in the luxury market and not the other way around. So that raises the question, is it local people buying or is it international buyers coming in?
Sure. So basically, there are two segments, right? And one good thing, good practice that developers are doing over here, the leading developers, the developer group, builders group in India, right? Be it the L&T, be it the Godrej, right, group, and the Lodha group, and the furthermore groups like these, right? They, whenever they launch their fresh project, they drive two segments, in parallel. First is their overseas team, and second their in-house
Okay.
team, right?
Yeah.
So both of the teams are thriving really good, and they are attracting both of the buyers. But the measure of the purchase are happening in local market. I'll be sharing you one thing. See, the growth of any market or any country, guessed by, if we are talking about Indian real estate market, and I'm talking about all the good things about Indian real estate market. I'm talking how it is growing, how the fresh units are coming, and how all things are happening. But Carol, the major, if I'm, kind of an expert, or I'm kind of a person who is having the knowledge of real estate and how the market sentiments changes, I'll be asking you how many vacant units has been sold.
Yeah.
What's the number of vacant unit for the existing projects, right? So basically, one positive change has happened both the ways. Firstly, developer has started launching the luxurious segments, and they are getting the good sales. On the same side, the existing vacant units has been dropped by 15% in India, right? So
Okay, so
people.
so there are actually, so that tells us that element of the marketplace is working, it's functioning.
Yes, it's functional. So it's not key. Just teams are coming and developments are coming, creating that hype in the market, and people are just buying in for the hype or the sentimental way. It's not like that, right? In the last 10 years, so many developments has happened, right? The one problem in Mumbai was facing, right?
Yeah.
People used to tell the recession or the drop of the Indian real estate market 5 to 6 or 8 years back, right? There's specific areas like Lower Parel and other locations within the Mumbai, right? So the answer to that particular incident is the existing vacant units, right, that used to be 23 to 24% in last financial year has been dropped down to 15%. There has been the specific change of 7 to 8%. People have purchased the existing units because they want to buy, right? And these are the buyers who wanted their first house. These are
Yeah.
the investors, and specifically measure of the people who has bought the existing units are the people from the foreign investments, right? Because
Okay.
of the policies has been like that, taxes has been reduced for those, right? The stamp duty and other factors working for the people who are putting their money into these things. And Indian, if you just read all the current Indian budgets and the taxations, right, basically, so it is not suitable for the long term investment and other ways, right? And it won't be like that in future. So one thing that I always talk about is the young people, young buyer like you and me, right? They are a little bit afraid to put their money into this, right? And the very same time, because they're afraid where their money would be growing or not, right? The stock market, or Indian or American stock
Yeah.
market will give more money in return. But we need to understand that these all are the fragile and the volatile market, right? One particular sign can change everything. So we can just see the trend in last 7 days in India, right? How the market is falling, right? Which is absolutely not
Interesting.
a good sign. But we need to understand, putting something into real estate, putting something into property, right, will be securing your wealth as well as the generational peace, mental peace that is needed, right? And
Yeah.
that people overseas are understanding it. They are understanding. Yeah.
That's really helpful for context. It's very generous to put me into the young generation. I'm afraid I'm very much on the other side of it, but I appreciate the sentiment.
So, see,
I like how that. Thank you, by the way. That's really helpful for me to understand the context that we're about to discuss your property initiative in, because and I think you touched on something so important there, and that is that the market's been driven by growth, not sentiment. Because in Ireland, we've experienced both. We've seen the market driven by growth, and we've seen it driven by sentiment, and only one of those only one of those is bankable. So that's a really interesting way for you to break it down for me. So thank you very much. So in the context of this, tell me about MangalMoorti Proptech India.
so, MangalMoorti Proptech India was never in plan, right, from the first day, right? I have worked in different segments. I've seen when I talk about three Indias, right, which is basically, for the people who are working in economic segment, they use these terminologies. But I have worked in the 7 states in India, right? Having the experience of different states, right? Different geographical conditions, right? And the cultures and the sentiments, right? I got to know there are basic needs and mm, uh, there is aspiration to own things, right? Rather than, renting it or putting your money into bank. People really want to purchase something, really want to save things for their coming generations, right? And in India, when we talk about anything, you talk about any market, be it the real estate, be it the stock market, be it the pharmaceutical, any of the field you talk, cultural impact would be there always, right? People have this particular trait over here. They put their culture into things, right? When we talk about the medical field, we talk about the Ayurvedas by India. When we talk about the real estate, we talk about how we used to capture, how we used to own the lands, right? Earlier. So I come from a tier 2 city in India, right? Which is basically a non-metropolitan city, right? And I've worked in different segments of the market, right? I'm in the market from past 6 years, right? I've seen the edtech industry, I've seen the medical industry, and I'm currently, doing things in real estate, which is basically we are making to the prop tech, right? I've seen one thing: the people have the common sentiments of owning things rather than renting it or just borrowing it. Okay. So I realized there are only 4 to 5 cities in India. You must have heard the name like Delhi, be it the Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, right? These are the only cities people have heard of, right? And whenever you being an investor, if you're looking for the options in India, I believe you'll be having 3 to 4 options only, right? To put your money in. But India has immense potential in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, which got recognized in last 1 year by the developers, right? So when I was thinking about something, right, what to do, what I can make as a change in this particular industry, right, coming from a tier 3 city, tier 2 city, I thought of connecting the complete geographical dots, right, over the technology, and make people see what all are the other ideas of putting your money into. So when we talk about, there are so many lands, right? There are so many NA lands, agricultural lands, right, available in the near about the outskirts of these metropolitan cities, right? There are lands or villas or houses, raw houses, independent houses are available to sell and purchase, right, across the India. Right. So I was thinking all of these things, and then I had my friends, right, who we were working with, right? And then we thought of creating something different, right? We being an engineer, so I'm an engineer by education, so I thought of inculcating this technology things in this, where we have 2 to 3 major key focus areas. Firstly, we want to connect the buyers with the technology, so that buying a property is not something that you do in a supermarket, right? Or you can do over the internet search or something. You need to check more than 10 options, then you'll be landing on one option that is suiting to you, right? And when you are checking 10 options, India is having the market of real estate, which is basically, we call it a bit, cluttered market, right? It is not organized at all. It's not organized at all, right? You are visiting 10 properties, you'll be meeting 10 different people, and they'll be giving you 10 different stories, right? And such a situation is really difficult for you to buy and make a decision for one particular option. So we are working to create a platform, right, for the buyers pan India, right? Can check the property with the common mindset, with the neutral biasing, with no biasing, with the zero favor to any particular project or development, right? And giving you the absolute real picture of the property, can give you the better idea about the appreciation over the property and other things, which we are working on the platforms to create with, using the AI, using the virtual reality, using all these augmented science, right? We are trying to build something that can give you, if you are sitting in a city like Mumbai and you want to purchase something in Rajasthan, which is basically a state in India, right, which is so nearly about 2000 kilometers away, right? You can simply have a platform, and you can simply have a person, right, which can give you the idea about it, right? So we are in process for that. We just complete 1 year only. right? So I really want to come in the market with this particular tool when I'm absolutely ready for it, right? But meanwhile, what we are doing is we are practicing it, right? We are making the life of the buyer easy, right? With giving the personalized consultation to them, with giving them all the legality, all the documentation things handy before they are, visiting the project, right? So yeah, I started. As we were discussing earlier, right? We started it as a group of 5 people, right? And it was absolutely bootstrap initiative, right? We really did not want to actually having any burden on mental, pressure of delivering something, because it took years, it took a long time to Rome to be built, right? Completely. We do not want to be in hurry, and we do not want to get the, VCs, or we did not want to fundraise about this, so that we'll be in the pressure to deliver as soon as possible, because such things are, giving the collapse, right? Within the starters, within the entrepreneurs, right? The founders are having the unnecessary stress over it, right? So we thought of doing it all on own, right? And which basically worked for us. We had the zero liability, we had absolute zero stress, right? And I was pretty sure about my decision that we can definitely make out something when the government is helping us to make more money, and put giving all the favorable policies, right, for the buyers, right? Where developers are moving from affordable segment to the luxurious segment, right? As I told, last year, whatever launches happened last year and whatever launches happened this year, there is a dip of 22%. That simply means developers did not launch the affordable projects in mass. They chose to launch projects in a class segment with the luxury choices, right? And got the result, which is basically 170% higher than the last year, right? So basically all of these things have been fortunately working in our favor, right? And we are doing extending our services in Mumbai right now. We are targeting 3 more cities, right, by the completion of next financial year, right? And the platform that I was talking about, we are working on, right? And I'll be definitely discussing that with you as well once we are done with this, right? So that
Good, good.
you can be more efficient when we are getting live on it.
I'm trying to understand, I suppose, in terms of the core offering, and I appreciate where you are in the stage of the business. And to be honest, I think that most founders, or particularly first-time founders, they never think they need the money. Then they start developing and they realize they need the money, but they don't want to take the money. And that's generally the situation. And by the way, we always position, once you take on equity investment, once you take on, or VCs coming in particularly, that's the start of your exit.
We are in the same boat, we can understand that.
Yeah, so no, but I think that's absolutely fine, because most of the entrepreneurs I've met, they're very passionate about their business idea, but they've got hundreds more. If they take this concept through, raise the funds, build the team that can continue delivering the vision, they're kind of excited to move on to other projects. So but I think it's so important, if you're taking money, that's the start of planning your exit as a founder. And there are very, very few exceptions, very few happy exceptions to that. So I absolutely understand why you're doing it the way you're doing it. I want to understand, first of all, the business model. So will buyers pay for this? Will sellers of homes pay for this? Will advertising on your platform pay for this? What's the business model?
So, the problem, and I won't say the problem, but yes, definitely the problems led to the businesses grow, right? So basically, one particular thing that we are not the first one to identify this particular issue, but yes, this has been an issue in the market, right? Where the buyers has to pay, right, a certain amount to the developer or the broker, basically, the middle person, right, the middleman, right? So we basically trying to create a platform, right? We have so many platforms. Like, for an example, I'm taking an example of Airbnb. We all are aware of, right? Where we can simply compare the prices, we can simply compare all the amenities, we can simply compare all the features that we are going to get when we are checking in that particular property, right? To stay or whatever the things are, you know. We have the platforms for the policies or health insurance, we have the policies to compare the loan, right? And all of these things we have the, you know, platform to work on. But for the real estate, it was not there, right? So right now, we are creating an environment where the buyers need not to put, right, any of kind of investment or any fee. They don't need to pay, right? It's just the promoter or the developer, right, whom we are working with, right, whom we sign our partnership you know, contract with, right? They pay to us, right, for onboarding the right particular buyer, right, to get the end-to-end transaction done, right? We
Okay.
also have some services of providing the, you know, right clients and right set of leads to the, you know, different firms, right? So these are the basic you know, business model we are working on. Definitely I can talk all other aspects once we are done with this particular thing.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And the other thing you talked about, you mentioned a few different technologies there, from AI right through to immersive technologies, including augmented reality and or virtual and augmented reality. And you also talked about a personalized service. So when I think personalized, I think more almost away from technology. And I think
Yeah,
so. Can you explain to me? So the personalized service won't be a human service; it'll be a technology-led service. Is that correct? So can you
right.
explain how that works? Because you know it's interesting for me. It's interesting to chart the progress of technology in this area, because technology in this area was to automate things, which is almost the opposite to a personalization service. And in recent years, there's been so much focus, usually enabled by AI, or to make that a more customized or personalized service. But actually, invariably, when I talk to prop techs, the more personalized the service, the more human intervention there seems to be. And I'm wondering, is that a case of almost the human acting as a bridge until the technology retrospectively can fill that gap? And so, from your perspective, and I'm particularly interested around the personalization side. So, like, maybe take me through the journey of somebody who particularly is in one city and wants to buy a property in another city. Can you take me through the journey there?
Sure. So basically, in India right now, so many properties, right, available uh, are not having the clean title, right? Are not having all the legalities clear, right? It's still the developments are happening, right? The, you know, projects are getting launched, right, with one or two litigations onboarded, right? So in such cases, the buyers need to know each and everything about it, right? So as I talk about all of the technologies I mentioned earlier, right, we are working on a platform, right, to provide everything within particular application, within particular website, where one need to have their you user ID and login, right? One need to have the complete account over there, right? And he can have the particular credentials and, you know, available tickets, right? He can avail, right, before taking the premium and everything, right? And he can compare all the legal documents and other things, right, by sitting at their home. And when we are getting to know, okay, this person is, you know, interested in showing their particular interest in these kind of services, right, that we can reach to them. So these are the things that is in process right now, as you discussed. So basically currently it's a human which acting as a bridge between the, you know, two segments, right, till the time technology is not taking over completely, right? So basically in India, to counter this particular legalized aspect and the litigation thing, India has this particular authority known as RERA, Real Estate Regulatory Authority, right? So basically, whenever any developer come in the market or makes the entry, right, he need to upload all the documents, right, all the approvals, all the basic, you know, plans, and any kind of we can call it the all thing information, right, for anything, you know, they need to upload over there. But the buyers are not available, you know, aware of it. Major of the buyers are not aware of it because of the social media, because of the education, because of the information in air and the accessibility of internet. Now the major of the buyers are aware of it, but a big segment of the buyers are not aware of it, right?
Yeah.
So right now, when we talk about the personalized way, right, we are making, first of all of these things clear before the client or the buyer showing up with the developer and the promoter. right? Which gets really important for it, right? For that, we are creating the platforms, right? Right now, we have many cases where a person is of 45 to 65 of the age. They are not ready to accept the change, right? And they do not want to change their mindset because they have been dealing with the, developers in a conventional way, right? Where they used to pay the 100% of their property price before the excavation of the land, right? And they used to wait for the, development and the delivery of it, right? And meanwhile, the, within a period of 1 to 2 years, they used to pay the complete amount, right? And they used to wait for the delivery. Some of the, developers luckily has given the possessions, but major of the developers could not do, right?
Yeah.
Because there was no, regularity among the processes, right? So collectively, the government and we people, right, are in process to make a way, right, so that everything would be channelized, right? All the we can call it, the processes would be in intact, right? So right now, one major change has happened by the government, right? We all, there are three segments in this particular industry. First is the promoter, that is the developer, right? Second are the, middlemen like us, right, and the service providers, right? And third are the allottees who gets the property, right? Right now, the things that is working in India, they all are getting, tied in a common thread, right? So that the things would be transparent and would be easy for, one to understand, right? So we are using, right now, we are using different platforms to give the dockets, right, to the client before they visit or show up over the site, right? And they can easily access those platforms to, check all of these documents, right? And some of the, firms or some of the companies right now in India are working also on the agreements getting done over the, platforms only. They need not to access and visit the office, on the repetitive time. They can easily, access over the application. They can make the agreements and all the documentation done, right? So these are the basic thing, changes are happening, but yes, definitely it is going to be, take some time. Reason being, definitely India is a young country, but yeah, major of the decision makers still are the people who are coming from the generation that they are trying and they are doing it. So it is happening in a good pace.
It's interesting, if you and I were having this conversation, back in maybe 2015, 16, 17, I might have identified similar issues in Ireland. And it's interesting to see, while we were championing prop tech and construction technologies and the rise of ESG and ESG reporting. So suddenly looking more towards not necessarily the governance element, but certainly climate and sustainability and adding social value became massive drivers. And they became drivers not just, I mean, yes, they were driven by regulation and the threat the impending, the knowledge that regulation was coming down the track. But there was a real the leaders in real estate did show a willingness to lean towards social value, because that's not being driven by regulation right now, like maybe sustainability and climate is. But it's interesting because as you're talking, I remember speaking to startups, particularly across Ireland, mainland Europe, the UK. I remember talking to them, and they would have described very similar things. And when you break down kind of the three cohorts that you need for success. I mean, you've got your developers, the middleman, the buyers, but the reality is not all middlemen or middle people are equal in their resistance. So for example, I'm thinking one of the key aspects you want to do is provide clean title. So in Ireland, that would be dealt with by our solicitors or our conveyancers. In Mumbai and the cities that you're looking to expand into, is that similar? Would property transactions be dealt with by a legal professional?
So definitely. First of all, we have this particular board known as RERA I mentioned earlier, right? Which is basically abbreviation for Real Estate Regulatory Authority, right? So basically, one good thing has happened over here is the developer, right? The promoter need to showcase and put all the documents on air before the launch of the project, right? They cannot launch the project before having any of these documents pending, right? But the awareness is not there, right? And sometimes the titles are clear, right? Let's suppose for an example, a project is happening and the title is clear, everything is clear, but they have 4 to 5 uh, court cases active, which is basically known as the litigation, right? So having all of these things available, which can be a threat in future, which is not basically a threat right now, because that escalation, that litigation is not that serious right now, and it's not live in the hearing. It is in the passive bucket, right? But maybe down the
Yeah.
line, after 2 years, it can be active, right? It can be a serious problem when the construction is 50 to 60% done, right? And the client, maybe the buyer, has paid major of their 70 to 80% of the purchase cost, right, to the developer. And in that case, if any of things getting stuck in between, right, then it would be a serious problem. So we basically provide such services so that one would be aware ki what can be the possible threats in future, right, and how they can, firstly get that particular solved and then move ahead. So these are the things we need to work on. And one thing that you told about the social issue and the environment awareness, this is happening really good in India in last 2 years, right? Developers are preferring to get the green certification before the launch, right? And when I talk about the Gen Z versus millennial, or the people who are crossing their 50 and 40s of the ages, right, the change is the young buyers are more keen to purchase and show their interest where the green certification is there, where livability is there, where the developers, like the leading developers, they have preferred to create net carbon zero carbon projects, where they are disposing their own construction materials, the wastage, right, to equalize the air quality and everything. They are they are making the 40 to 50% space as the open space. They are putting the measure of the oxygen generator, trees, right, within the campus, right? So these changes are happening, right? These changes are happening. People are woke now, right? And this generation is showing the interest to those particular projects mainly. When I talk about any of the luxurious project, we just name it. I'll be sharing the list of all of these luxurious launches. You'll get to know they have measured 40 to 60% as the open spaces. They have their green certifications on. They have the lifestyle on the first, and then the residential on the second. So they are woke now, and they are in the right direction in that particular thing.
Yeah, do you know what, that is absolutely fascinating to hear, because essentially some of the some of the technology innovation and some of the problems that you're setting out to tackle would be similar to those that we've seen tackled maybe 6 or 7 years ago across some European cities. But interestingly, we've all landed in the same place, where right now it's current developers trying to tackle delivering net zero buildings and getting the monitoring and the accreditation and the reporting right on that. And actually, believe it or not, in Ireland, we are still essentially going through the battle of ensuring that title is delivered before a property is brought to the market. Now, it does happen with new developments, not because legislation requires, but it does happen for new developments. But say for second-hand properties, that's still an issue we're dealing with. So it's really interesting to see that while there are many differences, there's a lot of similarities, and a lot of these similarities are caused by very long established, entrenched professions not being willing to maybe quickly enough accept the realities of the changing world. So that seems to be universal. And I genuinely, I love the way at the start of this interview you kind of described what it is you do as completing or joining the geographical dots. And I didn't understand what that meant then. I understand now. So thank you so much. I suppose finally, a little bit of advice for any founders who are on, doesn't matter where they're based in the world. Have you any advice for founders who might be on a similar journey but at a different stage? Is there anything, maybe, you're a year into this particular project and this particular initiative, but is there anything that maybe would have helped you to know a year ago?
Yeah. So having one thing, one basic is clear, that you need to fight this all alone, right? You cannot rely you cannot blame the situations, you cannot blame the market, you cannot blame anything. It's just the lone wolf battle, right? And you should have at least a backup of next 1 year for your personal expenses and the business expenses combinedly, right? It can't go one-handed, right? You should have the complete backup of your business expenses, right? With around 40 to 30% of extended team. Whatever team size you are going to have right now, you should have 30 to 40% of the extended team. Calculate the expense for next 1 year and be in the right mindset to have your expenses covered as well. You should have the good savings. You should have good people around you, right? And never ever feel someone is doing better than you, because everyone has their own journey, right? You being founder are already ahead of a group of people, right? You just need to make your journey amazing with one particular thought why you started, right? You are having the right mindset, you are having your finances ready, you are having the right people with you, you don't need anything else in the market, because market is going to help you anyways.
That's a really inspiring note to finish. Thank you so much. And quite frankly, as somebody who started our first startup maybe 17, 18 years ago, I wish I had taken your financial advice. To my detriment, I did not. So I couldn't echo that sentiment more. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the extra time to kind of talk me through the Mumbai and even wider India market, because I think it's so important for context. And I think we want to know that there are opportunities, because unlike, like, we started with real estate, which was very attached to land, and land is not so land doesn't cross geographical boundaries. And it was only really when we started to see real estate capital cross all of those geographical borders. But PropTech can be a real equalizer here, and I think the potential for a PropTech that works, whether it's in one of your tier 1, 2 or 3 cities in India, or whether it's in a small island like Ireland off the coast of Europe, that the same technology, we're all at this point trying to solve the same problems, which are decarbonisation of the industry and making home ownership accessible and affordable. So I'm really excited. Yeah.
Just one point over here. As you mentioned, India is, India has utilized barely the 10% of their real estate capacity yet, right? Having only 4 to 5 major cities. And we are contributing 13% of the GDP of the country, right? The 90% potential of real estate in India is still explored, right? And we are already, contributing around 13% of the GDP. The government and the people like stakeholders like us having the clear mindset, we are going to be the market of $1 trillion, right, by the end of 2030, right? Where we are looking forward to see the major role of tier 2 and tier 3 cities, right? Because they have the lands free, they have the immense scope of construction, they have the as America and Ireland, Europe struggling and having the good demand of logistics and warehouses, right? There are good demands of offices spaces, right? And definitely the ESG certification, the social reasons are not, favorable for those particular thing, right? As we talk about the US market, 70% of the properties are under the market loan, right? So all of these things are not favorable, where in India, the 90% of the land is still unexplored to create the wonders on. And definitely be it the Ireland and the India, no doubt, lands doesn't cross the geographies, doesn't cross the borders, but yes, the way Indian market is welcoming the foreign investments and everything, we can be on the same side of the table and discussing the things, when we'll be meeting over here, or maybe I'll be meeting you in Ireland, right? The thing would be happening for sure.
And I love that you use that phrase that there's so much land unexplored to create wonders on, because actually that's a potential that can get us really excited about what can be delivered for the next generation. So thank you so much, Duragesh. I really enjoyed talking to you. It's so interesting, and I absolutely want to stay in touch. And we're very committed through PropTech Ireland to strengthening not just the bonds between PropTech in India and in Ireland, but actually making sure that there's some really good potential, knowledge exchange, learning exchange, but commercial opportunities as well, because I think it's so important. So thank you so much for taking the time today, and very best of luck to you and your team as you continue to bootstrap and hopefully create wonders. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. That was Duragesh Mishra, founder of MangalMoorti Proptech India, or MPI. My thanks as always to producer Katie Talon and Caoimhe Scully, and to the audio team at Hear Me Roar Media. Before we go, just a special word of thanks to our sponsor Proptech Ireland for supporting the podcast and for making these conversations possible. And finally, thank you indeed for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next episode of the Proptech Hot Seat. In the meantime, please be sure to check out all of the other Irish and international real estate shows here on iPropertyRadio.com.